Hello, welcome to this snorkeling session. I'm gonna start with a simple question. How many types of testing do you know? My answer for this question as developer was straightforward. In unit testing, integration testing, end-to-end testing. Unit testing, we want to test a smaller piece of the code isolated of a system. Integration test, we want to test the different modules, units, components as a combined entity. And end-to-end testing, we want to test the complete flow of our application from the start to the end. But what about performance testing, and what is performance testing? So performance testing is a type of testing, or is a type of software testing, sorry, that focus on how the system performs under specific loads and conditions. It's used to ensure that our system works well under its expected and unexpected workload. The goal of the performance testing isn't to identify bugs in the code, but to identify possible performance issues and also establish a baseline for the future test. And why we should test the performance of our system? Well, for several reasons. For identify bottlenecks, delivery positive user experience. Let's imagine a website that is take too long. It can really frustrate the user. Ensure scalability, validate system stability, and also capacity plan it. But last but not least, mitigate the risks. Performance issues can really lead to significant problems. For example, the system downtime, loss of revenues, and even damage the organization reputation. So identifying and addressing those issues can really help us, can really help the organization to mitigate those risks. These are the table of all type of performance testing. We have the smoke test, load test, stress test, SOC, also said, endurance test, spec test, and breakpoint test. In this talk, I'm going to focus only on the load testing. So what is load testing? Load testing is a type of performance testing that helps us to understand how our system performs under expected normal condition. Expected normal condition, for example, can simulate many users doing the login at the same times, or run a set of operations that are normally in our system. Can operation like browse the product in an e-commerce application, for example. So again, the load testing, it's really help us to identify possible performance issues that maybe slow down our system. And where to run load tests? Before a new change or major release, after a system change can be in the architecture, in the software, in the hardware, before a peak usage. A part of maintenance, we can schedule load testing as a normal maintenance of our system. And how to be prepared? We can define the load scenario. We need to identify the typical scenario, so which are how many users we have in our system. The different scenarios, so see if our system, how can I say, if in our system the user can register and do the login, this one can be a scenario. If the user list all the product, can be another scenario. Create a realistic data. So we need to have in the test environment the same amount of data that we have in production, and this leads also to prepared infrastructure. So our test environment must mirror as close as possible the production environment, but last but not least, use some load tools. And there are several load tools that we can use that can help us to simulate the load, monitor our system under those loads, and also analyze the result. In these almost 25 minutes, I want to share with you Grafana KeySys. What is Grafana KeySys? Grafana KeySys is an open source load testing tool that makes performance testing easy and productive for the entire engineering teams. It's free, it's developer-centric, and it's also extensible. So with the use of the Grafana KeySys, we can test the reliability of our system and also the performance in order to identify possible performance issue. With the help of KSYS, we can really build resilient and performance applications that scale. So KSYS is developed by Grafana Labs and the community. Now, the core feature, configurable load generation. We can write as many as load testing script we want. Power of Go, familiarity with JavaScript. This part is interesting because the tool itself is written with Go. So in this case, it uses the performance of the language to handle system resources, networking, but it allows you, as developer, to write the load testing script using JavaScript. A lot of people knows JavaScript. So in this case, we can import modules, export them, and also reuse the code. And it's really interesting because the two components, they are working to each other, and KSYS use a JavaScript interpreter called Goja, yes, that transform the JavaScript code in a Go program. It's really interesting, this part. Full feature of APIs. We have a lot of APIs that we can use. The classic one to do HTTP requests, for example, is CLIs based, that we will see in a moment. And in this case, we can think to use KSYS also to integrate KSYS in our CI/CD pipeline. Flexible metric storage and visualization. This leads to extensible and pluggable. There are a lot of plugin integration for KSYS. So in this case, we can use well-known tool to store the metrics, like for example, the time series database in FluxDB, and visualization tool like Grafana. And it provides a lot of performance metrics. Now, you can install KSYS in different platforms. In Ubuntu Linux, apt-get install KSYS, Windows with get install KSYS, in macOS Brew, but we can also use the Docker image Grafana KSYS. Now, before showing you an example of the script, I need to explain to you the life cycle of the testing. So in KSYS, we have 4 different stages. The first one is the initialization part. It's required. It is run once per view. View stands for virtual user. In this part, we can load, we can import all the modules that we need. For example, HTTP module to do HTTP call. We can also define the option, like for example, how many virtual users we want, the duration of our script, or our test, yes. But we cannot do any kind of HTTP call in this part, and is required. The second stage is called setup. It's optional. It is run once. So not once per view, but just once for the entire script. In this part, we can do all the setup of, for example, the initialization of our test environment. We can preload the data that we need during the test. And we can do also HTTP call here. For example, if you want to authenticate to our application before the testing, we can write the code to authenticate exactly in this setup method. And the output of this setup method, the data, are passed to the other 2 stages. The third stage is called default, but it's also called view code, virtual user code. It's required, and it's run once per iteration. Once per iteration is mean, if we have defined 20 virtual users and the duration of our script of 1 minute, this call will be run by the 20 virtual users for the entire duration of 1 minute. And in this part is exactly where the load testing happens. It's exactly where you put the logic of your load testing, meaning that if you need to test different endpoints, is exactly in this part where you write all the HTTP call for testing your endpoint. The last one is the tear down. Let's say it's the opposite of the setup. It will be run at the end of our script. Again, is optional. It is run once. And in this part, we can do some post-processing of the data. If you need, we can do HTTP call, or we can shut down the test environment that we initialize, for example, in the setup method. 4 stages. Now, an example of the script. In the first 2 lines, I import the HTTP module and also the sleep module. HTTP module to do HTTP call, and the sleep because between iteration I want to just pause 1 second the iteration. Sorry. And then I can define exactly in this part the option. For example, you want to have 20 virtual users, the duration, 2 minutes, for example, of our testing, and the stages. So the stages is mean I want to have only 10 virtual users in the first 30 seconds. Then, after 30 seconds, for the duration 1 minute, I want to have 5 of them. So ramp down. And then, after 1 minute, for the last 30 seconds, I want to have all of them ramp up. I can even define this called stages in KeySys. So this part is called, it's the initialization part. It's required and is run once per virtual user. And then a simple example of the default function is exactly where the load testing happen. I'm doing just a simple HTTP call, a get to website testkeySys.io, and then I pause for 1 second. So this is the load testing script, very simple to write, very simple to read, and also very simple to understand. Now, how to run it? It's CLI based, so keysys run, and the name of the file, run script.js, or with Docker run the keysys image Grafana keysys, run the script.js. Now, keysys printed out everything in the terminal. And we have a lot of different performance metrics, and for some of them, we have also the average, the mean, the max, the percentiles, P90, P95, and so on. So everything is printed out in the terminal, and before see all the metrics, we need to wait that the keysys complete the script. Now, which are the metrics? We have the standard built-in metrics. For example, it can give us the number of virtual users that were active, the data received, the total number of the iteration, and we have also some other HTTP-specific built-in metrics. For example, the HTTP rec duration, so the total time for the request, or HTTP rec receiving, so the time spent receiving a response from the host. And other metrics like browser metrics, WebSocket metrics, gRPC metrics as well, and custom metrics. Now, keysys printed out everything in the terminal, but where we can store and visualize this data, this performance metric, because maybe it's not a good solution, see everything inside the terminal. Well, keysys allow us to write the metrics inside a file, CSV or JSON, or it allows also to stream to a service, a well-known service like Amazon CloudWatch, Apache Kafka, Datadog, InfluxDB, Grafana, Cloud Prometheus, Elasticsearch. So how to do it? With the flag out and a key value pairs. So if the key can be JSON CSV for writing inside a file, equal the name of the file, or the service, so the name of the service, in this case, InfluxDB, equal the URL of InfluxDB. So which is the generic workflow? We have keysys with an internal agent that stream during the execution of the script the data inside a database, and then we can think to configure a front end to query the metrics inside the DB. So in this case, we can go directly inside our front end that we define to see the data collected in real time. Now, a small demo. For this talk, I decided to create a really simple application. I decided to use Go, one database, Postgres. You can find the source, my GitHub repository inside the slide. So this application exposes different endpoints for the user to register or log in, to browse all the product or detail of a product, put a product in the car, or do the checkout. So the user can interact to my application, and some endpoints are protected. So I want to run right now a simple load testing for my application. First, I need to identify the scenario. So for the user, for example, I managed to have 20 virtual users. and for the product, 100. Why I said that? Because I identify two different scenarios. I can identify the scenario of the user, where the user goes inside my application, do the registration and the login, but also another scenario when the user goes in my application and just search for all the product, detail of a product, or put a product, or do the checkout, for example. So two scenarios, very simple, user and store. With KeySys, we have also the possibility to define group. And in this case, I define three different group. It's simple to understand: the product, the cart, and the checkout group. Now, which is the demo, the workflow of this demo? So I have KeySys. We will do a load testing to my, I call my Amazon application. It will stream all the performance metric inside a database. I define InfluxDB, a well-known time series database, and also I define Grafana to query the metrics to, I define Grafana, I define InfluxDB as data source of Grafana, so in this case I can go directly in Grafana and check the performance metric collected during the execution of my script. Now I need to share. Yes. Okay. I'm going to switch to Visual Studio Code. So first, yes, Visual Studio Code. So these are all the endpoints that I described. Okay, I'm written in Go, the user, product, chart, and the checkout. And then I define the load testing.js. I put this inside the same repository. It's up to you if you want to put it in another repository only for doing the load testing. So in this part, the initialization part that we saw inside the example, I import all the modules, HTTP, the group that I described before, and the check, because in this example, I want to check the status code of each response before continue my load testing. The options are different from the example that I show in the slide, because here is exactly how you define scenario in KeySys. We have the user test and the store test. For the user test, we want to have constant view, so not any ramp down or ramp up that we saw inside the example. And I define to have only 20 user and the duration of 15 seconds. I don't have, I want to run it for 30 minutes, but maybe Michele will shoot me. So I need to have a duration of 1 minute for this demo. So this user test scenario will run the user scenario script that I define here. And then I have the store test, constant virtual user. In this case, I want more user. In this case, I put 100. The start time, I put 15 seconds, because for the first 50 seconds, I want to run only the user scenario. And after 50 seconds, for the duration of 1 minute, I want to run separately the store scenario. So the store test will run the store scenario here, defined here. This part is the initialization part. It's required and is run once per virtual user. Then here I define also the setup, because some endpoints are protected, so I need to authenticate before test those endpoints, and I decided to authenticate once. In this case, I can have the token, and I can use the same token during the store scenario. Then the user scenario, very simple. I'm going to create different user. I'm going to check the status code, and then I do the login with the same user that I created. For the store scenario, I use the token that I receive from the setup method. And in this case, we have 3 different groups that we saw inside the slide: the product, the cart, and the checkout. For the product, I do the same thing. Do HTTP, in this case HTTP get, to fetch all the product, check the status, and then pick randomly one product in order, one ID in order to see the detail of the product and check the status. For the cart is the same. In this case, I need to have the token because the cart endpoints are protected. And in this case, I'm just putting the chart just for simplicity the same product. and checking the response status. And the checkout is the same. So only HTTP and some check on the status code. Then let's move to, to this part, InfluxDB and Grafana. Why I decided to use InfluxDB over Grafana? Because there are well-known tools, but also because if you want, not this evening because there is the party, but let's say during this weekend, try KeySys. You can go inside the GitHub repository of KeySys. You have a Docker Compose, and if you do Docker Compose app, you will have InfluxDB and Grafana up and running in your system without doing any kind of configuration. So in this case, I have my Grafana up and running. I can check the data source. Yes, InfluxDB. I can test it. Everything is good. I haven't configured nothing. Oops. Then I need to have some dashboards. So if I'm not an expert on Grafana, or if I don't have time to set up a lot of dashboards, because KeySys is developed by also the community, you can go inside the Grafana/dashboards. You can filter for the data source InfluxDB. You can select the data source InfluxDB, and you can also filter by KeySys. So in this case, you have a lot of dashboards that you can import inside your Grafana. For this demo, I just decided to use the KeySys load testing result and result by groups. You can just copy the ID of the dashboard. You can go inside Grafana, click on import, put the ID, click on load, and you will have the two dashboard ready to use, already defined. So I'm going to open it. Of course, you can compile all of them. You can create your dashboard as you wish. So right now, I don't have any kind of metrics. Okay, I'm going to filter for all here and here. Now, if everything will work, I'm going to switch inside. I'm going to open the terminal, of course. So let me check that everything is okay. I have my application. Yes, I have my application, the database, Grafana and InfluxDB. Now, so KeySys run load testing.js, out InfluxDB. Yes, and now KeySys is starting to test my application. I cannot see any kind of metrics right now, because everything is printed out in the console. I need to wait that KeySys will complete. But because I configure Grafana InfluxDB, I can go inside Grafana. I can start to check the metrics collected in real time. Oh, let's put here just 2 minutes. And here are all the metrics collected. I have the other dashboard, for example. Again, I can do here 2 minutes. I can filter for the group that I define inside the script, checkout, product, users. I can start my investigation inside all the dashboard. Because I don't have a lot of time, for example, I can go here and check that, for example, /product takes as minimum, medium, and max, and P95 5 seconds. So maybe I have some issue in query all the products because I have just 20 products in the database. Now, some takeaways. So performance is the key. The system performance is also an important aspect of the software development. So I know that you can write a lot of unit testing, integration test, end-to-end tests, okay, but think about also the performance testing. Ownership of the testing. You are the one that implement the APIs. You are the one that know better than anyone your system. So you are the one that you need to test well your system. So in this case, think also to use to write some load testing script. If you use some load testing script, you can identify some performance issue, you can fix them, and you can improve so the quality of your code. How can you do that? You can do it creating realistic traffic, so simulating, for example, user, how using tools like, for example, KeySys, and this is an open source tool built for developers. that facilitate the system performance and use Grafana. It's a CLI-based approach, and it's flexible, and as I show you, easy to use. So my name is Giuseppe. I know that we don't have time for questions, but please reach me out during the conference, or if you want, pretty much everywhere. And thank you so much for your attention.